So there's a lot that we can discuss on this. I appreciate you taking time to hop on here and getting a few things out in the air. There's a lot I want to go into, but in this we'll just generally cover a few different key aspects of crypto and kind of a day in the life of what we do and that kind of thing. So with that being said, few people kind of know crypto fundamental story, and it's a long one. But if you could give us a quick rundown on how CF came to be in like 5 minutes or so.
5 whole minutes, man.
5 minutes or less.
The short version is, in graduate school, 2017, mid 2017. I don't remember the exact catalyst and what I saw about it, but I remember starting to watch videos like, Bixweir and Crypto Zombie and people like that and being very interested in the space. I had no idea what CT was till early 2020. No clue. I signed up for a Twitter account in 2018, but I never used it. I just didn't understand. I started writing in 2020. So I was in crypto from 2017 on, investing, watching YouTube, and doing somewhat shitty charts. Attempting TA. Research was pretty decent though, but I was researching the wrong things that were too high, had too high of a value and a market cap. So, when research them at the top of the bull run like I did then, they were good entries, and you just don't know what's what. So that's kind of how I started in the space, started writing in 2020. I think me and you met that year too, at the end of that year. God, it's been a long time. Jesus.
It has been, bro.
The beer's fucking gray now.
Dude, we're all getting old quickly.
Anyway, yeah. So, but that's how it happened. I started writing in 2020. Didn't think anything would come of it. I just wanted to talk about good projects and, whatever. And people seem to like things I wrote. And over time, you just kind of collect people who find maybe some of what you say is interesting. And that's basically it. There's no real magic thing to it. But I did spend the last bear market learning TA. My toolkit is full, and it needs to be, you're continually refining things, but it is full, and I am competent and, above average in all the areas I wanted to be above average in now. The only issue, even as an analyst, with TA and everything, and this is probably affects so many people, but with my TA, my analysis is generally accurate. Whether I follow my own analysis or not is generally the issue, right? That I still work on. I do most of the time, but still, sometimes you think you see something and you're not following. You get away from what you created for a plan, and you kind of get your ass chewed up. I still do that once in a while. I did it about a month ago. I got my ass chewed up on a trade, but lately now my losses are so small that it doesn't matter. Like I cut a loss or a trade after 1% and down, and I don't even care. And because my setups I try and make so it's I'm going to get an entry at the level that supported. So, but yeah, anyways, that's I think we're always in a place of refining. That's how I came to be where I'm at. People follow me for micro caps and low caps, and basically, I could do TA online and it would be accurate mostly, but I just don't find the time to put it all on CT. A lot of things I keep to myself. It sounds selfish, but you just deal with so many people who have so many issues and they have so many questions, and you just can't answer all their questions because it really in the end takes time. You have to be in this market for years to understand what I'm trying to put out there fully, not surface level, and everyone's at their own level. Microcaps, people like what I find because I'm able to, a lot of people could do this maybe, I don't know, but I'm able to see things that I think have an edge. So I see things very clearly that could potentially, that no one else is doing. Maybe that's a spin-off on something, but the spin-off portion of it's strong, or stuff that has teeth, right? That's how I refer to it. That's the market can get behind, that no one's doing, right? That's unique, that's innovative. That could be decent tech, right? And that's what the things I try and find and that I'm good at finding. Even now, though, right now, over the last 3 months, it hasn't mattered so much. The market's really not responding to, it will again, really not responding as well to tech as it is other things. And that's just part of the cycle. It always is that way. I remember in 2021, remember you, when there was this meme rage, same kind of thing right now. And FA was just ignored the whole time. And that's part of the cycle. I think a lot of people, a lot of voices out there, they get really mixed up. And they really believe the bullshit that's out there. When they really need to examine cycles and stick with cycles and write down the cycles, and it's so simple, and that's not complicated. You're not confused. You're not pissed off. You just kind of know what's coming, because the meme cycle does come and the FA cycle dies down. They rotate out because eventually people always get desensitized and sick of shit. And the meme cycles are always kind of do really, really well. You got the, what is out there, the Whiff, Brett, etc. All these memes that have done very, very well. But then right after this happens, you see morons come into the space and try and exploit it. And that's an indicator of like maybe mid-cycle meme, or I don't even know where at, because I'm not an expert in memes, but it is a part of the cycle where these guys come in and they want to make money off the space. And nobody thinks it's going to change. And you hear the term a lot that memes are the new fucking store value. As if the governments would ever let that happen. Fucking people are so delusional. But it could not happen, will not happen, because they're going to crush, in the end, regulations will crush everything. And I don't know how long it's going to take. Could be next year, could be 5 years, could be 10 years. But they're going to crush all that shit. They're not going to let people just make millions and millions of dollars forever and other people get ripped off forever. It's not going to happen. But yeah, anyways, so we're in that part of the cycle. And back to the point is, I understand these cycles to a degree. So FA, back to the point of FA, it will come back. It hasn't been as fun lately, but I might add a bunch of things that I think are going to perform pretty well when liquidity comes back on chain. And that's the real issue here. It's not so much that FA is doing terribly and it's bad tech. And I see some more innovative things coming out. I saw some great things be ignored fully 3 months ago. They're just dead now. And I'm not sure once they're dead, it's like, well, but liquidity is not on chain. And that's the main issue. Not that FA isn't doing well, but that it's a gambler's market right now. The meme market, I have nothing against memes. I hope everybody, I mean that. Fuck yeah, make money. Great, awesome. I'm glad you guys are here. I have no issue with it. I have an issue with scammers and people coming into space to take liquidity out of it, because we have a huge problem with that already in scammers and rug pulls and VCs and unethical manners. And the VC shit was awful this year. Not awful in the sense that a lot of retail lost money, but just they performed poorly. It's a very long-winded explanation that went off in about several different directions.
Oh man, that was exactly what I wanted, because listen, that gave me a lot of excellent talking points that I kind of want to go off of, and not really in any particular order, but these are a few things that I feel like aren't talking points in other. I feel like there's a lot of echo chamber in our space, and it's fucking exhausting. It makes what we're doing insufferable. So I kind of wanted to get you on and let's break the mold a little bit. You know what I mean? So, one of the first things you said was, originally you got into this buying the known stuff from, the people you would find it from on YouTube or whoever. And then you learned that, there's more, ROI on the micro caps, and for a small window of time, it seemed like, from 2019 to, 2021, really, there was that, really small window of the gym, what I would consider like the true gym hunting window, right? Where, and looking back, a lot of it was like, just really well done white papers and vaporware and shit, but it was very convincing to a degree. And there are still projects that are working, that are advancing. We're not going to discuss any of those. I'm not here to debate any of that. Yeah. But what I did want to talk about was, it's funny because that was my strategy as well. That's kind of how I got my following and my footing underneath me, was finding the micro caps and helping other people, find and make some X's. But this runs pretty different in my opinion, where I've not been in micro caps so much, where as much as I've been trying to find that more established project that's been around maybe for a few months or maybe a year or two, that's been working, that's had some downside. And that this cycle, I thought it would be different to a degree, but not in the sense of changing my strategy and saying, hey, last cycle, I was not really looking so much at anything over 100 million market cap, right? Like my sauce was, $1 million to like 10 million, because I knew that's where the big big
Yeah.
run would come from. But this cycle, it seems like I'm looking at a lot more of these majors that had really big capitulation events, like we saw these last couple of days. Am I crazy in thinking that I'm not the only one with that strategy? I heard you talking about it, and I want to say you've kind of alluded to maybe some of that thinking as well, picking up some more majors as me and you talk. You've told me I think INJ was one of the ones you had eyes on at one point, and this was a while ago. You told me this, and that's kind of why a burning feeling that you are looking at a strategy similar to how I'm playing this.
It is. I mean, I've had the AVAX TA mapped out since 2022 at $4. I remember I put it in my TG several times. So we're up a lot actually when people really aren't considering how far we're up. I do think there's a lot of liquidity coming in. And it's so, this is said so often, I just hate saying it again. There's so many fucking things to put your money into that there's this fragmented and fractured communities that don't exist like they used to in ways where people are always just looking for the next best thing. So they're taking their money, and this one has the same marketing, same gimmicks, same tricks. So we're going to see if this one works. And more than often not, people are end up losing. I think now is really the time to educate people on what you're saying, and especially right now, today, yesterday, on things that can 2, 3, 4, 5x, because it actually isn't quite like what we experienced 4 years ago, when you could just put your money in there and wait. Now there's 100 memes with a similar branding, similar developers, similar teams. Hell, maybe they're all the same teams, these fucking weirdos. Well, it's just, you don't, like, when I look at memes, like, oh, I want to get into a meme, like, okay, here's one, they all look the exact fucking same to me. I don't fucking know. And they're typically all insider, which is good, sometimes bad others. So there's good insiders too, right? They're there to hold 80% of the supply. And I've seen it happen. Remember back when SHIB came out back in the day? It happened then. It's still happening. People look down upon it. Well, I mean, there is some validity to holding a lot of supply that makes projects go up and up and up, and investors make a lot of money. And there's the other side of that, where these people will sell off. So all of it's a gamble. It doesn't matter what you're in. But yeah, the big caps are the majors. I think are going to do well. Yesterday I seen several that were just very strong against BTC. I think Render, INJ. God, what was the other ones? ETH. I think ETH will perform pretty well. But that's for people that are 2xing. It's more complicated of a space than it ever has been, because people want to make that money in that initial capital to get to the place where they can put their money in for a 2x and be like, okay, well, I need a 5x here to retire. Not even retire, but maybe to buy a home or whatever the hell it is. And they're lost on where to do that at. And I think microcap utilities were a great way to do that. And I do think they're going to come back, but as part of the cycle. But right now, it's very hard to know where to put your money in these. There's some people you can listen to out there that are pretty good with memes, or if you're spread out, you might do well. But I feel like that's why I have money in majors right now, and like 4 or 5 of them. Ondo 2 looks pretty good. I don't like some of the token unlocks coming up, but that's a major I like. Tau is right now too. A lot of people don't like BitTensor, but always remember, it's not what you like. It's what's going to do well. And to now, there's not a cult community like there was one with BitTensor. There's not a product out there like there is with BitTensor. You can say all you want about things that are up and coming, that are 6 months to a year old. This is new, whatever. Well, okay, maybe in theory that's true. Maybe it could be better, but will it be? We don't know yet. So a lot of people have their mouths and money in these projects that they haven't proven themselves yet. Yes, they look good. They're looking good. They have great concepts, great theories. The developers are working well. And I have money in these projects too. But I don't sit there and say that this is going to be the next blah, 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 because BitTensor has proven it, right? For example, right? They're the AI person in the space. That's it, right? There are others, of course, right?
They're the powerhouse. Yes.
That's right. They have an Ohm-like community. And I don't know if people remember Ohm, but Ohm was this, Ponzi, so it had to go down. There was no other way for it to move. BitTensor is not like that. It has the same supply as Bitcoin. I don't know why I brought this project up, just for an example of people and how they're directed to these lower caps. And I get it, man. I do, because I've been there. And in some ways, we were very fortunate to be in that time. Things were funner too. There were a lot of fun. People just had fucking fun the last bull run. This one
Well,
was just
to
fucking blah, blah, blah.
to go back to your issue on dilution, to intertwine and kind of have a meet with what you just said there. There was a time 3 years ago where you would make a meme and ETH was the chain, right? And if it launched on Binance, oh, that's a fucking scam. We're not touching that shit. And everyone kind of was like in unison together, like, no, we're not fucking with that. Somebody would come up and make a one letter off. I remember Priya being a big one in 2020. And then it was like, there was like Bria, Ria, Dia. I mean, there was like, before lunch, there was 10. But as everyone came out, everyone was like, scams. Everyone called it for what it is. But now it's like, you don't have any of that. There was no unison. There's no working together. There's no synchrony in saying, hey, bad actors. It's just like, oh, hey, yeah, I just threw $50 at it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And that's become like the new standard. That's really shitty. I mean, when you think about it, instead of people just protecting, because this is how I look at it. I had a really good Q1, so I've put myself in a position finally after 4 years where I could breathe a little bit, and not like breathing really well, but I could just fucking breathe a little. But you look at the number one topic for debate for this presidential election is how to be able to afford housing. And that tells you right now that people are having a hard time just paying their bills. Right. So when you start throwing around, like, oh, well, I just put $50 and if it goes to zero, it goes to zero. Stop giving these people fucking money. You know what I mean? If you don't have a hot bit, if you don't have hey, my buddy who knows somebody that said this person had launched something back in 2020 that had a really successful project is behind this and has put his name behind it. I think this could do well. What the fuck are you doing? I mean, I can understand a gamble if you find something funny, but I don't know, man. I feel like everyone's just gotten so comfortable with just saying, oh, it's magic internet money. Oh, I've made this money. It's shitty, man. And that is, unfortunately, what helped mark those local tops, and like how we've seen.
And I used to be somewhat of a voice of reason online, and I still am to a degree, but I don't do it as much as often because people just they need the experience, number one. Number two, but I really do wish people would kind of understand or at least divide their funds into a gambling pile and an investment pile. Because
stop you right there. I'm sorry to interject. How would you set up a portfolio if you were somebody coming in this space? And I'm sorry, I want to make sure we touch on like super key points while I have you. I know your time's limited. If you were just coming in this space and looking at making a portfolio, not price wise, but percentage wise, how would you divide something like that up? What do you think is maybe more of like an ideal setup for in two instances? Because I know there's going to be a difference here. For somebody that already has capital and they're looking to make wealth on it over time, or somebody that has $1,000, $500, and they're just hoping to swing for the fucking fences on that slammeroni. How would you set those up if you don't mind me asking?
The person who's want to manage wealth, I would just do Bitcoin and Ethereum, to be honest, and maybe a few select microcaps that are projected to do well by actual analysts and hedge funds, and that other institutions have a vested interest in, because no matter if Bitcoin went to 40K tomorrow, institutions now and hedge funds have a vested interest in making these things go up. And these are the guys that write the laws, or that help write the laws through lobbyists and, their political contributions and all this stuff. And so that's where I'd put my money, because that is the safest place to put it, that you kind of, you can look at other tech online and even AI and stocks is going to do well, but that's where I'd put it, in like 4 or 5 things that are really great. And I would be vigilant on everything but Ethereum and Bitcoin. I would check in with the other 3 or however many you do nonstop, because just like we've seen with Luna and just like we've seen with, CRV the other day, things can just happen quickly, whether they're true or not true, whatever the fuck happens. If you have $100, that's tough these days. Not saying it can't help you, but more because it's not hard to make money on $500. It's hard to make it on $500 because most people are looking to make it and to retire and to have a better life. And because society right now is squeezing everybody, and jobs suck, benefits suck. Academic institutions promise something and they're not delivering the jobs afterwards, right? And the employment's not there. And housing, like you said, I looked up housing the other day. It was wild. Looked up the interest rates. we put it in. I've been very fortunate through my life. Not fortunate. I built my life from the ground up. I burned my life down 15, 16 years ago, and I had to build it all. I've been fortunate enough to own my own land and own my own home, but it was through about a decade and a half of nonstop, and I went to school for 8 years, and, my background is in psychiatry prior to crypto. So I had a fundamental, like, people are always like, I want to go full, like, back to this, the $500. They want to go full-time crypto. Well, I came into the market with $50,000. It's $50,000 that I had earned through psychiatry, because I spent 8 years. My wife and she was pregnant. We had one little kid. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. We had no money when I was doing my rotations because you don't get paid for them. And that's what it took. But I have that as a fallback now. If anything happens in crypto, I'll just go back to my job treating patients. But that was all by design, right? It was and a lot of people don't have this mindset anymore. They live in fear of, I need to get this done now because it's the last cycle. It's the last this, is like that. There's money opportunities everywhere. It doesn't have to be in crypto. People get wealthy all the time, but you have to study all markets together. And, you have to be flexible to these things, and you have to give it time. My timeline has always moved up. Every 5 years, I have a new goal and a new frame of mind. But $500 today, because of the dilution, because people think I have inside information. Inside information means nothing these days. And it's because every project is run through inside information and insiders now almost exclusively. I think of a few that aren't, or at least that look like they're not. So inside information isn't valuable like it used to be. It isn't. So to even make enough money on $500 to do it, you would have to get lucky, follow the right people, have access to people within the meme community, maybe, because that's where you're going to make the most. For $500 right now is memes, right? But since like 100 of them come out a day, you give it $1 in each in 5 days, and then what? You're done. So it's very hard for someone with $500. If it was me, you need the time in the market. No, here's what's going to happen. Someone just coming in the market with $500 is going to lose it. That's what's going to happen, and that's not because you're poor. It's not because you did anything wrong. That's the way it is. I lost all my money the first 2 years. I was in the hole, in 2018, I quit for like 6 months after my first bull run because I just got demolished. I got destroyed. And then when I was in the middle of graduate school and studying for boards and all that stuff. So I studied for boards and finished, I was working in the emergency department at the time as treating patients. And then I got back into it once I was done with all that. But I was pissed off. I was sore. I was, very let down that first bull run, because the emotions of these things, they're meant to do this. And I think when you're new to it, you're not even going to understand what I'm saying right now, because you have to feel it. You have to experience it, and you don't know until retrospect. And only people that stick with it are going to ever know this. So it's actually people that are molded differently than others. It's not everybody, that's for sure. Because you have to be willing to take this certain set of suffering. And then most people who take these risks on and get burned, they never come back. I have a family member who lost $100,000 in a restaurant once, and they haven't put a dime into anything since, and won't, because they're scared. And they've had other opportunities. I think Amazon was one of their opportunities, like back 20 years ago or some shit. But they got burned. And that's the mindset of most people. You are going to get fucked. There's no way around it. You're going to lose that first 500. You have to work for another 500. You have to keep going. That's the only way to learn this business is through experience. No one can teach you. There's no academic courses. There's no universities. There's all these people open paid courses. Some of these I've seen, they can be somewhat beneficial. I've seen some do okay. The majority of them are assholes who promote hype and women and watches and this shit for nothing. And let me tell y'all something, if you're younger, that bullshit ain't going to get you nowhere. That shit is going to slow you the fuck down. Women today, I have a wife who's amazing, but I met her when I had no money. All right. The women today, a lot of them, not all of them, they're after a couple things. And they'll slow you down. They'll take your bankroll. They'll make you depressed after they're done with you. They'll eat you alive. And they'll leave you with nothing. All right? Buying stupid fucking watches and cars, those are depreciating assets. Those give you nothing. I can't explain this to you guys enough if you're listening to this. Depreciating assets are bullshit. You only buy these cars and watches if you're in a place of fuck you. If you own your home, if you have a retirement fund going, if you have a backup job. some of you sit out there and like, I think a lot of people have this misconception that for people like me, it just came to me. It didn't. Like, I just went over the fact that we had nothing. And before that, I had zero. I had to file, I had less than nothing at one point in time in what year is it? 2009. I had nothing, literally nothing. I was living with my parents again, after failing at life initially. These things, I try and get people away from these things because what they do, watches are exciting, cars are exciting, they're fucking fun, man. I don't blame you. I like them too. But do you see me with a watch in my hand? And I could go buy an Omega today. I could buy an Omega. I could buy a Rolex. I could buy any of that shit. I could buy an expensive one too. There's no watch on my wrist because in the end, who the fuck am I going to wear this thing for? And if you need to go out and impress people, do you really have the confidence it takes to make it in this business? Probably not. If
It's
your
not going to
dick's
help you on that end.
no,
It's not going to help you on that end.
people don't care. Winners don't really care. If you're in a business thing with a bunch of people and it's like a gala or something, yeah, it's cool to wear. But I mean, if you're nobody attending these things, who the fuck cares?
I want to give a shout out to his name's Market Mobster. I know he's got a Patreon.
I know who he is.
I like Market Mobster. He does some really good content. He's one of the few paid actually does a paid Patreon. And then Ted Talks Macro as well. I like Ted. I like Ted and Market Mobster. So shout out to those guys. Thank you guys for what you do. So one thing, let's speed run it through. Couple things I want you, if you don't mind, tell us what you're seeing maybe throughout the market, just with maybe start with Bitcoin. And then if you can dial us into some of the indicators that you use, maybe not into like super depth and detail and how you're using them, but just maybe some of the stuff that you're using.
Okay. So for Bitcoin, for me, I'm leaning towards a more volatile year until post-election now because we've been consolidated for 4 months. I think we could test the highs again and rotate between the highs and 60K for a while now. I think that's kind of what's going to happen. Summer months are typically slow. I do think we found a local bottom here. I would be concerned if we went below 6. A lot of people are saying 60, but I'd be very concerned below 56. Then I'd be concerned. And that still doesn't mean the end of the world. The problem with markets is everyone's trying to predict them, and I don't try and predict them. I literally come in with the day, I do charts, I look at it, and I think about probabilities. And it's easy to see a good swing trade typically, right? If your mind's not focused on macro markets, it's even easier, and global macroeconomics, it's easier because a lot of people have those in their mind and it confuses them, and there's too much stuff going on for them. But I think it's going to be kind of volatile. I think we might get up to 75K and see another rejection, maybe down to 60 again, maybe down to 65 and back up. And then I think it's going to take some more time to break out because we didn't break out this winter. And now it's summer. You have the election coming. I think stocks are going to do very, very well up into 2027 and 26. But I think they're kind of overheated at the same time. But I don't think anything's going to crash. So I think you're looking at a period of consolidation and kind of sideways chop. I still think that. I think we found a nice bottom here. I think it's going to give some things some time to rally. We're going to have some fun again over the summer. But September's never been a great month for crypto. You have the election in November. I'm not one of these people who think that the president's going to make a difference in where Bitcoin's heading because the president's controlled by BlackRock. They're controlled by lobbyist groups. They're controlled by special interest groups, right? They're going to get, whether they're bearish for the first 10 months and act like dickheads and then get on board or not, it doesn't matter. Right away, they're on board. It doesn't matter. Bitcoin's headed the same place. It'll be a very, very good performing asset over the next 10 to 20 years. So it just depends on what kind of investor you are. I think we're going to have a volatile year until the end of it. I'm actually on board with, initially I thought if we were going up, the bull market would end this year. Now I think we're looking at mid 25, maybe, early 25, but it depends on when you see it break out. So I'm not going to give time frames. I do think we're volatile. I think we can go up to 75K even from here and then come back down and consolidate more until probably October. October is usually a great month. Even remember October 23 and then December of 22. So between December and October and December, typically you see real runs kick off. And that's based historically on my experience, of course. So I'm waiting for then. I think we consolidate and we see nice runs here and there. And I think we see sort of maybe, alts do well over July and into August. But that's my kind of thesis on it. The other question we had, indicators. I'm a level to level person. I do use RSI to a degree, but it's a different kind. It's a divergence, a divergence RSI, but it's only as a confluence. It is not an indicator I make decisions off of. It is where, okay, you have a make or break level like we had yesterday at 58.5. I had that marked out, and then you're all the way down. Like your RSA is just floored on the daily time frame. Then that's a confluence to me that we probably are looking at a bounce, right? But people want a daily confluence. This is like a multi-month thing, only occurs every couple months, a bounce like that. And that's when I do my biggest trading. I don't trade every day because that's how you lose money. I trade when I know, because that's what kind of a trader I'm. A leverage trader, I'm shitty. But a swing trader, and I use like 4 or 5 confluences together, and it almost always works because I just wait for it. And if you wait for those 6 or 7 trades a year, you'll do extremely well. And that's kind of what I do. Sometimes I exit too early. Sometimes I short sight my targets, and I'll exit early, but I'm still making money. And that's trading. If anyone, these paid groups too tell you, oh, you need 2 years to get well. No, you need a decade of trading to get good at it. I've been trading actively for 4 years now. I'm profitable, but I think it takes a decade. I don't know about you.
I'm still shitty. I'm still really shitty at trading, like especially leverage, because I just feel like you get carried away in the moment and trying to judge those moves on a game that you already know you're going to lose at. That's why I stopped playing video games a while back, because after I realized like my fun time, my free time was getting me just pissed off at things. Once you start playing a game you never win at, right?
Right.
What's the point? So yeah, I remember a while back when I first kind of got introduced to this. There was the saying that trading was like a bar of soap, and the more that you did it with your portfolio, the smaller the account would get, right? Like the more you used a bar of soap, the smaller the bar of soap would get. So um I think that over the last really for me since like November-ish, I changed kind of my trading up a little bit and started doing more intraday stuff. I tried to do more like just set it and forget it type things, but
Mm-hmm.
it works to a degree. It works when there's those really strong movements out of nowhere, and
Right.
that's why it's super important, to have a spot allocation of, I feel like of whatever it is that you're wanting. But yeah, I mean, as far as trading goes, I had my account up to a good little bit, and I cashed it out actually to get, the truck and a few other things, and kind of just wanted to breathe a little bit. But I also had made a nice hedge into, Bitcoin at like 66K, even though it's down. I don't give a fuck about that. I'm just thankful that I was able to buy a Bitcoin, at 66K. And even though it's 59 or 60 or whatever it is right now, it's not pain city like some of the alts that I saw drop 75, 80%. You know what I mean? So
They're really bad.
I feel like everything that you said absolutely has, merit to it, in the sense of, you've got to really experience this. You've got to develop your own game plan. Everybody's scenario is different. But a while back, everyone used to joke that you pay, when you're losing money, you're paying your tuition. And first I used to hear that and get so fucking mad, but now I look at it and I'm like, that is the truth, because now I'm noticing I'm doing more predictable trades. I'm profiting more. I'm more cautious is the biggest thing. I'm more I used to be very risk adverse, and now my risk management is getting better. I mean, I still suck at it at times. That FOMO's a bitch, especially when especially when the whole timeline starts getting parabolic, and everyone starts getting that sense. It makes it pretty difficult to start judging. But the time of doing this for, in my end, 4 years now, but really paying attention heavily, 6 months, it's easy to kind of tune the noise. One of the talking points that you had at the beginning of our convo was you had said that you had heard quite a bit of chatter, people saying that Is this the last chance? And is this the last cycle to really make some money, to get some good returns? You and I had that conversation at the beginning of the year. Has that tune changed at all for you? I know at one point you had a pretty strong opinion that you thought this might be the last cycle to really make some X's. Has that changed?
No, I mean it's a tough topic to tackle because I kind of preach that people should hedge and invest wisely. But here's the thing about that. So I don't blame people for the way they invest. Hey, let's chuck $50 at it. Let's do this and that. They're people want to get out of the rat race. It's kind of like the lottery. I don't blame them at all for doing it the way it is because, in a sense, in our society, crypto right now and the way it used to be is maybe the only opportunity they have to kind of get out of the rat race, right? So, and you could always say if you're one of these people, well, so what if it's $50? So what if it's $100? I got to go back to my job I hate anyways. I'll just make, whatever. I don't care. I'm already in debt. Who cares, right? And it's easy for people to say this stuff, and so I understand it, and I don't blame them whatsoever. But that's kind of ties in to the point that we're at right now because I do think so. And I thought with all the dilution that went on, I thought regulators would step in or Uniswap would step in, somebody. Because the simplest, I know it's decentralized. I know you guys, everything argue about this. Yeah, sure, great, it is. But leaving it the way it is has allowed for the majority of, think about it this way. The majority of things that are coming out are useless, unusable, extracting, and non-beneficial. And that ratio, I'm not sure what it is, but it's got to be at least 100 to 1 that are launched, right? And in that kind of world, I mean, nobody can win. So my theory was always that the cheapest solution would be for regulations to be implemented for developers, qualified developers, to have a license where you would have to log into Uniswap or whatever it is you launch a token off of, whatever contract platform, which they say is decentralized. If you have the internet, they can shut you off. I don't give a fuck. Because all those internet service providers are, regulated entities. Anyways, I thought they would make developers have a license, blah, 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 that track them when they launch a token, which would be fine and legal, and they can launch memes and whatever. But I thought they would implement something to that nature by now because of the dilution. But what it really kind of signifies is that they're not in a rush to do things. They just don't care. It's not affecting them that much. And they're going to let the space sort of devour itself and take out what they want at the end, right? But the problem here is people are in a rush because they think it's the last cycle. And there's never a last cycle. There will always be a Bitcoin, a Chainlink, an Ethereum cycle, right? It's just what will you be allowed to do and what won't you be allowed to do? Certainly for me in America, options are limited on exchanges. And I don't break the rules either, because I have no interest in dealing with government or any kind of civil entities one day, not one bit. So I don't break the rules because I know any money you make anyways on these exchanges that I'm not allowed to use. Well, I have to turn in for taxes, right? The IRS has artificial intelligent algorithms that look at your bank accounts and what you make, and they decide, whether you need this an audit or not. So anyone can get one even if they haven't done something wrong. So I'm not interested in breaking rules whatsoever. So to that note, every country will, has their own rules and regulations. But in the end, no country, and I get arguments on this all the time. It might be 10 years, guys. I don't know. No country, no global organization is going to allow this to go on where people are losing so much money, because you can see the depravity of it and the de-evolution of it and how bad it's gotten in some ways. They're just not going to allow it forever. And what they'll end up doing is either a licensing like I talked about, or they'll make it illegal or throw in some kind of regulations where, even memes, all memes will be taken off social media, for example. If you didn't have social media, right, if you mention a meme, you're gone, right? That could easily be done by X or TikTok or Instagram, right? Or they have a say about you have to have, maybe the government themselves or corporations develop a list of appropriate, right? Like kind of Grayscale has appropriate list of investments that we're allowed to talk about, something like that, right? And then so they'll just kill it in a way that really, it's not beneficial for anyone to invest, and it's not beneficial for developers to deploy, right? Kill the chains. And I do think that time is coming. And I know it. People get so pissed when I say this, but it's true, man. There's nowhere in history have we been allowed to make this, people to run off with this much money, number one, but regular individuals to make this much money and escape the rat race, number two. It's a short thing. It will not last forever. And then the dilution is also killing like the market anyway. So in the end, when you have institutions that are going to buy into Chainlink, that are going to buy into whatever the hell AVAX, now is it more beneficial for them to kill the dilution so that all of us start redirecting our funds into the things they invest in? Probably, right? And so I say by, I don't have a timeline, 27, 26. It'll, I think regulations are really going to hit next year, in 25. But, that's kind of my take on it. I just think that the cycles are more diluted. There's more people here, and not even just more people, more predators, right? And they're very sophisticated in what they do. Back in the day when we first started, that even the most astute scam artists, they was like, "What the hell is a blockchain?" Now they're in, right? They understand very well. So it's not the last cycle. I think it's the last cycle you'll be able to do this freely.
I agree. I agree. I think you're right on par with maybe some kind of digital identity, digital passport that allows you to be able to deploy. You obviously have somebody try to manipulate that and break that. It'd be super interesting to see, the degree that gets down to. It's going to happen, but
It will.
it's really cool when you think about it, because we are at the helm of all of this, still. I mean, what are we in? We're about 14, 15 years into this tech, right? So we're getting close to all around adoption, right? I think the funny thing is it's fucking hilarious to discuss what you've talked about already, which is people thinking that some of these memes are going to become like this, like tradable fucking currency, and that's what they live off, right? Like, it is actual mental illness. However, to each their own, right? And this is why it is funny, because you do get a lot of hate for when you speak the truth on, kind of welcoming in regulation a little bit. When you've seen this, you have to look at examples of people that shouldn't be making fucking decisions at, like, for instance, here in the US, let's say Capitol Hill, Washington. You know what I mean? There's certain people that don't need to be making executive fucking decisions, right?
No,
So
they should have they should select a private consortium or console,
yeah,
and in this space, of developers, of people that have, that understand the space. They shouldn't be making regulations at all unadvised, because they're poor at them, and they're what they're really doing is hurting citizens in the country and the infrastructure. But
I don't want to talk on the subject I don't know much about, but I remember seeing Ben Armstrong. I remember seeing BitBoy at one of these regulation meetings, and he's like posted about, I'm helping, and I'm like, of all fucking people, dog, you are not the guy I'm hoping that helps them get this straightened out. You know what I mean? Like, so I have a few other takes I want to touch on, but I do want to kind of rotate while I brought up the BitBoy thing. We saw a lot of interesting main characters last run that aren't around this run, right? We saw BitBoy, we saw Moonboy Carl, we saw Marin, and I almost kind of laugh, right? Like, is it so obvious, like, what the elite are doing, that like they're just rotating between people on who they're bringing in to help milk some of this liquidity out of the market? Because you got all three of those people that last cycle came out. I mean, BitBoy didn't come out of nowhere. He'd been around since, forever, like a cockroach in that side. But you had a few others that just kind of came out of nowhere, and then they also left in shambles, and this time around we have this where, for those that aren't aware, or just maybe living under a fucking rock, you had every seemingly unimportant celebrity step into our space, and try to capitalize on a move like that. In my opinion, that doesn't just happen. It takes a lot for people to move in synchrony to that degree.
And the other thing is, it's sometimes I will sit back, I reflect a lot and I kind of analyze things a lot. Is it possible? Could it really be possible they're this fucking stupid? They're so public and they're so willing to do these things that are very, very gray, and that they easily could go, you could lose everything you earned prior. So it makes me wonder, how are they this stupid? Are they really this stupid? They do not understand the space, or have they not, did they, because they all have PR people, right? And attorneys and like people that kind of guide their careers because, right?
A lot of what the people that I'm seeing, okay, and this is pure speculation, right? Like a lot of our conversations are a lot of people that I would imagine have a difficult time managing money. Or maybe not a difficult time managing money. I should say having the difficulty is the discipline of managing their money. It almost makes you wonder, are these people in, all right, and hear me out. Are some of these people maybe in trouble with the IRS from over the last few years that haven't been able to get out? And they said, hey, I need to make a deal. And somebody said, hey, by the way, we got a great way for you to be able to do a offer and compromise, and we'll take 10 or 20% or whatever you owe us, but you're going to do us this one small favor first. It just seems too fucking obvious, man. It seems too coordinated, and I don't like it for our space, man. I really fucking don't. It seems off, right? I'm not the only one.
It's weird. I don't care for it either, and it absorbs too much of the space. Another aspect of these celebrities too is I think a lot of people don't understand the underlying psychology of celebrities and people that need the spotlight constantly. So they're very somewhat tangential and very selfish people a lot of times, most times, and don't let their acting fool you. These people are actors and performers for a reason. You'll never see who they really are. I mean, the whole term acting is, the original word is, removal of face or protect the face. I can't remember, for being two-faced. They're very good at getting your attention, and they're just energy somewhat drainers, right? They need this constant attention that they've always gotten, and they'll find any way to get it. And that's part of it too. Well, I'm not getting my needs met here. My career is winding down. I'll come over here and get some attention and make some money, and be easy money. And but they're psychologically, most entertainers and performers, they're very sort of very tangential type narcissistic traits, and they're very good at manipulation and deceit. They have to be. It's part of the craft, and naturally you would have to be good at these things to act like they do, which is fine. But I mean, when they come, people really buy their bullshit constantly. And you've never seen historical precedents and facts. Have we ever seen a celebrity launch a coin that was great? No. You ever seen a celebrity get on board with a coin that stuck to it? No. So it's a short thing. Make money on it if you can, but get out, because it ain't gonna last. But they delude themselves in those telegrams. Fucking click, 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 click.
I can't do telegrams. I can't.
Muscle Game's gonna bring this to 5 billion. I'm not selling the 5 billion. And that goes on top of talking about capital building too. A lot of people are very poorly versed in building capital. You're not in this game to find your home run. Find a home run, go ahead. There's people like Eric Stevens who've done it, great. But he's the exception, right? And he has something about his edge. And everyone has their own edge. You can create your own edge, but it's going to be based on who you are naturally, right? Your foundation and what you work on. But that's his edge, right? And he's a rare person. And there's several others like that are memes. They throw in these memes and they do well. But, you're in here to build capital. I built capital over years. Just keep compounding and compounding. You take out profits here. You take out profits out of several projects a year. And then you put them in the new ones. You keep doing it over and over again. I mean, the only way it really can be done without going broke, I guess. I mean, you could keep trying the other way. This is my way. I definitely am a person who puts his money in different places, and I always make sure I'm protected in other ways other than where I invest. So like if something happens to that, well, okay, that sucked, but well, I guess I got to move forward, and I'm safe to pay bills. I'm safe for my family's safe and all this. And a lot of people lack that general situational awareness and risk management and the idea of how to build capital, because they get into TGs and they get into the hype of it. Oh, it's going to this price. No, it's fucking not. Start learning TA, start learning when volume dries up, start learning when sentiment drops off, start learning when catalysts aren't around the corner anymore. Maybe they've used up every catalyst. Learn these things and get out. Save your money. Because I know people, remember at the top of March here, how much have things gone down since March in micro caps that were hundreds of millions of dollars?
Significantly.
They could have had that money to redirect back into the markets, to buy a home, to whatever. So, but that's what always happens. There's only two things that are true here. Things are going to work in cycles, and you will lose money if you're not careful. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's just my take on it. It's not everybody's take. A lot of people are just here to gamble and get that hype and get that dopamine going. That's fine, man. I love it. Go ahead. I have no issue with anybody being here and enjoying themselves and investing in whatever they want to. But if you're actually here to fucking make money and do so over a period of time, you're gonna need a strategy, and it'll be built over time. It won't be built in a day, and you'll hit these markers, add to them over time.
I think veering a little off topic, but we have discussed this enough. I think that we can go into this now. I think a lot of people think when they hear us discussing how we talk about memes, they think we are discussing them in like a negative way, right?
Like,
And it's funny as fuck to me because let me back up a hair. I used to not stand it. It would kill me when Scrooge would pull like a fucking 100x out of thin air. And here I am bag holding some shit that I spent like 3 nights in a row up to like 3 a.m. on, on an Adderall binge trying to find loopholes or, breadcrumbs or whatever. He's just like, oh no, I bought this shit because it was funny. It made me laugh, man. And I'm up like, $80,000. I'm like, dude, what the fuck, man? And I used to have a sour spot on that, right? But as I've matured in this space, one giant realization that I've come to have is that if you have a native chain that you support, AVAX, Solana, ETH, Binance, whatever the fuck it is, you should be harboring a very community friendly area for people to come and launch their memes and good people. Now, the chains themselves, obviously, I feel like they don't probably really give a fuck too much as to who's really using it. I would assume they want better people to use it, not pieces of shit, and scam artists. But, at the end of the day, their goal is volume. Their goal is usage. And I think a lot of people, again, when they hear us talk, they're like, oh, these guys hate memes. It's actually the complete opposite. I look at memes as this super fantastic way to send my fucking bags over time because what they are and that people aren't aware of is they're deflationary pockets, man. Right? For example, you think about how many projects are launched on Ethereum in a day. Okay. At bare minimum, let's say they launch with, last cycle, they were launched with a lot more liquidity because there's just so many happening right now. But let's even just say 0.5 ETH per on an average of launch, right? 0.5 ETH. You do that 100 times a day, right? And that's like a very small amount, but 100 times a day times 365 days in a year. And now you've taken, and likely because most projects nowadays that are memes, that liquidity is burned, right? In order to even get the thing off the damn ground, the liquidity is burned. And it's so funny to me because after a while, people just don't realize that like they're just deflationary pockets, man. And so you would think that there would be this more unified, kind of cult around keeping memes alive, but it has in fact become too diluted, and even amongst really so many different chains. We've got L1s, we've got L2s now that we're launching memes on. We got L3s that people are talking about, and I'm not even taking the time to learn about that shit now. So I'd like your thoughts on maybe where you do see the long. I don't see memes going away. I see them becoming more regulated. I would not like to see them disappear. I feel like there'll be more cultural and community related tokens, right? Like almost belonging to like a faction of like, if you really like this kind of bicycle, well, then you can own this token, right? Imagine at some point it gets like that, but being able to walk in and pay for a Slurpee with a fucking cat with a hat on it, I don't fucking see it, big guy. I don't see it happen.
It's just the financial regulations and they're so regulated. There's so much red tape. You're not going to get it through. Number one, who's the CEO? Who's the developers? For Christ's sake, SHIB developers, no one even really knows who they are. They're not going to allow these people to have banking licenses and money transfer licenses and these things. Even for Doge, like Elon, well, a payment method. Well, how many people are using, even paying for a blue check on Twitter? Not a lot. So who's going to use Doge to pay for things on Twitter? Is it worth it? I mean, I don't think so. It's just not going to work. I think Bitcoin works well as a transactional asset, and I think that maybe has a future to a degree to kind of back up some sort of monetary policy. But yeah, for memes, I like memes a lot. I bought one this morning. I bought some bread because, well, looks pretty decent, right? For the rest of the year. It's just one of those things that it's not going to go away. And I think it's good, a good investment for some people, depending on what you're looking for. But I think it's super, super, super diluted. And that's the problem because now you can't even get alpha. There's no such thing as live pairs watching or hunting. No one knows the developer, right? There's 100 of them launched a day, maybe an hour. I don't even know. But they're all over the damn place. And then you have the dilution of shilling too, where, during a bull run, some people will shill like 5 things a day, right? And so their community is limited in funds and they're fractionalized. They don't ever put their money. They're inside their communities. They get fatigued. They get worn out. 4 of them go down. They get pissed off. They didn't make the right decision. They sell everything right at a loss, and it just keeps going. But I like memes a lot, and I've been in memes. I don't talk about them much because they're so volatile, and because I am not the person to ask about memes. It's just one of those things.
I bought a nice bag of Apustasia.
What's that?
I bought a really fat bag of that Apustasia. I know you've seen it. APU.
Oh yeah. Yep,
Dude,
APU.
you need to grab a bag, my man. I'm shilling you the bag. Shiba to Doge. That's what it is. The Apu to Pepe is what that is. So yeah, if you go on my realization moment was if you go on Twitter and you try to type in Pepe in the GIFs, you get nothing. You get dick. I won't say who, but there was a lot of complaints. And people were bitching and saying it was racist and all this other shit that they like to put on the PayPay shit just to take away the fun. But little cheat code, if you type in Apustasia, you get the same damn green frog, buddy. Very interesting. Apustasia is just the younger teenage version of PayPay.
Right.
So super cool. That's what I went with. I bought a fat bag of that. Not to go too much off the rails there. I like that one. Kind of want to, where we're getting towards the last of things here. If you don't mind, we've gone over a few different things. Do you have maybe a few of your favorite picks? Small cap, mid cap, and maybe one of the majors that you've been accumulating during these last few weeks of down only?
Majors are everything's subject to change, number one. Number two, I do like, I'll go over a few. Bearing unlocks, guys. Make sure you have a good calendar of unlocks going into tokens, because you need to know when they're unlocking and when to get out. And those they're going to get sold off in front run before the unlocks too, by the way. But I like INJ, but not so much. These are good tech, but it's the communities and the sentiment around them and the people that have been backing them since the bottom of the bull run. Probably my number one indicator. I mean, if they wanted to give him something else, they could have, but that's where it is at right now. Institutions still buy these things too, or some of these things. I like AVAX a lot. I think Doge will perform well. I like DMTR a lot. I still like FET. I'm unsure of FET a little bit due to their bridging with Ocean and AGIX. So I'm just kind of waiting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, super interesting move.
Yeah. Chainlink, of course, it's just a really high market cap, but we own a bunch of Chainlink. Or I do. I know CD does. OP looks good. Matic looks good. FTM looks fine, right? These are all majors. Rose looks great. I still like Rune and their tech. Solana will probably go up, but I'm trying to get things with a little bit more X, isn't it? Then they could go up 4X actually, or 5. It's hard to say. So I my position that's smaller. I like TIA as well. I mean, I've mentioned a lot here, I guess.
How about any Polkadot projects? I know you and I are both, I'm not trying to do like a low level shill on XRT. Everyone knows that's been around knows that we're big on XRT. Do you have anything else on DOT that you haven't really discussed with too many people that you've got eyes on or anything? I mean, I kind of had eyes on Sora XOR a little bit again. I saw it had to come up after. I want to say that I saw an announcement that they redid their tokenomics. Yeah, that's kind of my thought.
Great project. That'll be so. Back to when we talked about regulations and sort of things getting squashed. That'll be when you see these really legitimate companies start, taking in tons of cash. When you're unable to buy a certain meme, when you're unable to do this, when you're able to transact on that, 25, 26, whenever this happens, when they're going to squash all this stuff. That'll be when you see, and even before that, probably, bull run when tech takes over. And XRT doesn't get any, it's crazy the amount of love it doesn't get. because they didn't hire KOLs and stuff. And, I have nothing against that, whatever. I don't care. But at the same time, there's nothing like it. It is a legitimate project that is in the middle of adoption through several different companies using their capabilities and, working models and, using their project. It's one of those ones that I know will do very, very well. It might take a year, it might take 2 years. I have no idea. But I know the valuation of it is insanely low, right? Given the fact that who's developing it, what they've done in the past, who they work with, right? They have ties to governments and universities, and right, super intelligent people, robotics, deep in, you even have AI in there, smart cities, everything they're working with. So they're a hell of a company to invest in, even speculatory. On DOT, I don't have a lot of DOT picks. I like Polkadot. Polkadot was huge last cycle. I still think it's a really cool project. It just, no one's paying attention to these things right now. And now it's to the point where you have all these L1s, L2s, and who's going to use what? Is this stuff actually going to get picked up by corporate America, corporate China, corporate wherever? Is it going to be used or what? And that's where we're at. I don't see any of it being used yet so they're through developing for the most part. They have refinements to do and all these other things to do. But in the end, if no one's going to use this technology or adopt this technology, well, it was just a really great idea in the new .com bubble, right? And that's all it is. But I like Polkadot. It's cool tech, really cool. I also like BitTensor. I talked about that earlier. But I like these things for more than just the tech. A lot of people think, well, you do the fundamental analysis. Yeah, it looks great. But the community, the cult, the TA, right? The fact that it'll be pushed and it was being accumulated by institutions as well, right? It was recently listed on Binance at the beginning of the drop in February or March. These things are going to do well, a lot of them in a road. Microcaps, I hate damn micros on here. Get friggin' lynched. There's a few I'm looking at, but some of the ones I really liked, they're just not performing. The tech is there, the people are there, the workers are there, but they're not performing the way they typically would, no matter what, if I like them or not. Yeah, this is great, looks good, could help people. People don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Right. People are off buying Pepe, and that's fine. Whatever, man. It's all good. But
and I know one of the low caps we're both in is predicting AI. I've liked their wise and naive indicator. I've been using that actually quite a bit. There was a proof platform launch called Zero that does some AI related like imagery, text to image, text to video stuff. But I mean, the problem is that timing of these projects is so freaking hard for these guys. You know what I mean? And timing is everything for an alt. You could have the best you could have the best team, the best project. And unless you're fast track with insider money, with just big money, you're not getting over $1 million, $2 million, $3 million. And you're sure as fuck not sustaining it unless whatever you're selling is truly next digital gold. Right. And there is a lot of it, I mean, shit, I swore I wouldn't hold more than 20 tokens this run. And I'm probably right there at it. I probably got about 15, 20. But even that for me is too much this time. Cause I'm like, man, I want to, when it's time for me to really see the signs and, I'm watching for ETH Foundation cash now and I'm just looking to pull the trigger on getting out of everything. I don't want to have to keep up with 15 fucking things, but that is kind of the unfortunate side of that's the give and take is, if you want to hit those big numbers, you got to play in those. And
low caps that I love, brother. NMT, love that. The Netmind.
Yep, Netmind.
I'm in Quill. I haven't DCA'd all. I'm going to DCA into Quill. I'm like 25%. And that's because I know it had a lot of miners at a very, very low price.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what direction that's going to go in or how that's going to go in, but I'm going slow into that. The great tech, cool project, waiting to see if these guys are selling or what the fuck they're doing. But it's a cool project. Nonetheless, there's a new one. I hate mentioning it. There's a new one I'm looking at called QF. Okay. I just looked at it the other day. It's parallel revolutionizing computing. And then Graph I'm in with hieroglyphs, right? Yep. From hieroglyphs from
I think Pablo's in that one. I've seen him talk about that.
Yep. Pretty cool stuff, but all depends on the market and whether, get on-chain liquidity back and stuff, but I like them and I'm in them. Where's that other one I wanted to talk about? Let's see. Desync, I mean, obviously,
Yep.
it's been holding out for a while, holding up good still, around 200 million.
I got to give DSync a shout out, and we got to round down here. I got about just about 3 minutes left in our conversation. We've ran two of these full segments, which is dope.
Okay.
But I like Desync. I like Desync a lot. Guy's been working pretty damn hard. I really just think, again, it goes back to timing in the market. I think that it's very apparent when every single thing across the board, has a looks like a downhill ski jump at the moment. You know what I mean? And then kind of continues down.
Yep.
The one thing I do like though is I really like seeing the key levels being reestablished on Desync once they're lost.
Yep.
And I think that a lot of people look at that and they go, well, what's kind of happening here? And I can fucking tell you, you got early buyers exiting and you've got interested parties replacing them. And I cannot be more bullish and I cannot say enough about how much you want to fucking see that happen in your project. If you want, I think this is sideways
Right.
to the right on my screen, but that's what you want, so, but,
It's all about really coming back on chain, brother.
it
That's
is.
it.
It is. I think I'm hoping that we have a solid Q3. I'm hoping that we have a really solid Q4. Rolling into next year. It's we're seeing a lot of meltdowns across the timeline. I got to get this in quick. We're seeing a lot of meltdowns across the timeline, and I think it's really funny because we're not even at our inflection point of the halving where shit really gets exciting for us. I mean, we're only I think we're what, like 2 months, 3 months past the halving now, or maybe not even that long.
Right.
So, it's still like, dude, chill the fuck out. We still got like 3 months really before history. If we're going based on history and cycles repeating themselves, we got a couple more months until we see that real big movement up. But I'm gonna tell you straight up in closing here, CF. My game plan's changed a little bit. I'm not looking for the 100x's. I'm not looking for the 20x's. My game is wealth now, wealth management, especially. I feel like I may be wrong. I feel like we're in the last leg of this. I'm looking to take profits between like 96 and I know this is a crazy range, but about 145, 148K Bitcoin. And I'm going to leave some on the table for if I'm right. And, that hits awesome. But let me tell you something. I'm not leaving 90% of the fucking table for it to all retrace again if it goes.
We've been there, done that. Not
Nope.
doing the same thing either, but yeah.
So, but listen, Fundamentals, I appreciate you hopping on here with me. I do want to get you on more of these segments. I think we should start doing this more often.
I think we should cover markets as is on the fly. Maybe starting next week. Have some fun with it. We can talk about some things that people are interested. But yeah,
I'm good with it, brother.
Right, brother.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna get this cut up, posted, hopefully before tomorrow.
I'm gonna take care. Have a good one.
See you, bro.